sure the stream's good real quick. And then I'll
Okay.
go here to Discord
Oh,
and I'll hit enter on that so that everybody there knows we're streaming.
you should have called this Take Two.
Yeah.
All right, let me move this over here.
I'm going to tweet this. Let me retweet it.
It's actually happening.
It's happening.
Okay. Here we go.
All right. All right, let me just check the stream real quick. And yep, looks good to me.
Okay.
All right. And I got all my tabs open. Let's you ready for take two? All
Yes.
right, there we go. In 3, 2, 1. Greetings, programs, and we're back for another edition of the Nerd Cave Retro Show. My name is Jason Robbins.
And my name is Derek Diamond.
And we apologize for being a day late this week, but Derek's router was giving us some problems last night.
It said, no podcast for you.
No podcast
No.
for you.
So it was working, it just wasn't working through Ethernet. So that router is almost a decade old.
What?
I've had it ever since I've lived on my own.
Wow. It might be time
So-
to call Cox and get a new one.
So, well, I did get a new router and got internet back and working about 20 minutes before we started. I was starting to sweat a little bit and thinking, of what I could do. But hey, we're here. I made sure Zoom worked. I made sure that all the tabs worked. I went to like 10 different websites to make sure that everything was good. So here we are.
Everything's working super fast now.
Faster than they have been.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
It's still got that new connection smell.
Always got to love that. Yeah, I always love. I just got a new router not too long ago, a couple of months ago, and man, it's a world of difference when you're having trouble. When you have an older modem and you're having trouble with it, and then you get that new one, and it's like, holy crap! There's no lag. There's nothing. Everything works. Websites pop up pretty quick. It's nice.
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great.
But we did actually record a whole beginning of the episode last night, but figured we'll just redo the whole thing.
And I felt like it was a really good open too.
Yeah, well,
there was some good band. Well, I mean, we talked a lot about Zelda, but
yeah,
I mean, I'm not complaining about that.
I mean, Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, if you're not out there playing it right now, if you're listening to this and you're not playing Tears of the Kingdom, you're missing out on one of the best gaming experiences of the last decade.
You know what's unfortunate about us pushing the show back a day later is that tomorrow, and I don't think this is in the show notes, but Nintendo is going to be doing a direct tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't put it in the show notes. I should have, but yeah, we'll just go ahead and let everybody know, yes, that Nintendo Direct is tomorrow. Of course, it's always a day or two after we record, so if anything good pops out of it, we may do a news dump real quick and talk about it.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Pikmin 4 news because that's their next big release, but who knows? Maybe we'll get some surprises.
So we're a good 6 years into the life cycle of the Switch. How much longer do you think they're going to go with it?
I don't know. Like, I feel like this is around the time that they switch over to a new console. Because you look at...
or at least you hear about a new one. Like a tease.
I don't think we'll get that tomorrow. Maybe at the end of the year, we'll get an announcement for the Switch 2 or whatever the next Nintendo console will be. I'm thinking maybe 2 years. I have no idea because I'm honestly surprised because like I remember the GameCube came out in 2001 and then the Wii came out, I believe, in '06.
Mm-hmm.
So and then what, the SNES came out in 91,
91.
and the
Original
N64 was like 95 or 96.
that was 96. So usually we get about a good 5 to 6 years in between consoles. So it's about that time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to see what Nintendo's going to do next. I mean, even if they come out with a new console, like, dude, I'm still in love with my Switch. I'm going to play that thing till it just doesn't want to work anymore. But that being said, I would. Well, actually, I was thinking about something last night I wanted to talk about with what we would want out of a new Nintendo console. But now I can't remember what my ideas were. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old.
I know the feeling. We won't be getting a new Zelda game. I'm pretty confident of that. We're not going to get a new Zelda for a long time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know Apple's coming out with their VR type of thing here pretty soon. So, I think Nintendo might dip their toes back into the VR space as well.
You've been saying that for a while, that they were going to dip back into the VR. I mean, it can't be any worse than the Virtual Boy.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, with that, whatever the next console is, if it's just another, hybrid console or a handheld or VR, whatever it is, whoever they have running that online shop, they need to fire them and hire someone else, because that online shop is abysmal. And
it's a joke.
They should be ashamed of themselves about how bad that online store is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's an absolute joke. And the one for the Wii was great.
I know.
Like, they put out stuff consistently. I liked, you had to buy points to purchase the games, but I didn't really have a problem with that. And they had a lot of good stuff on it. And they were putting stuff out up until, the Wii U came out. But I don't know what happened.
I mean, did they take all the people that ran the Wii shop and just put them somewhere else? And they're like, they got Ted the intern running the online shop now. Got some poor dude like locked in a closet somewhere. Like, hey, you make the online store. Here's a 20-year-old computer to do it with.
That gives me an idea for a short. Call it Ted the intern.
Yeah, poor Ted. Poor Ted's got to keep the shop going.
I think I might actually like Poor Ted a little better as a title.
But yeah, that's my main thing, is they got to get that shop under control and do something with it.
Yeah, that's a top priority in my opinion. I know they need to focus on their new games, but Nintendo has something that the other companies don't, and that is their insane backlog of titles. And they can make a lot of money off of it, but they choose not to.
One of these days they'll figure it out. Somebody, Ted the intern is over there working right now, and he knows how much we love the back catalog of Nintendo. Eventually he's going to work his way up, and he's going to get an executive position, and he's going to give us what we want. I might be 90 by that time, but that's okay. I'll be sitting in the nursing home with my Nintendo VR headset on, playing Super Mario 2000. Like, when will I be 90? In 2067, it'll be Mario 67, and I'll be playing that.
As we're recording the 3000th episode of Nerd Cave Retro.
I'm ready for it.
I like to think that when we get to that point, you remember in Futurama how they had all the celebrities, like they had their heads in the little little containers? That'll be me.
Yeah.
Just put my head in front of a microphone on a little table and I'll be set.
Yeah, we could do that forever. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you wanted to throw out there before we go into the news for this evening?
No, I don't think so.
All right, well, let's do the news. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Some of tonight's news stories were submitted to us by Donner, Party of Five, and Armez Jackson. And if you have a story you'd like us to cover, send them to nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. And this first story comes from retrododo.com. McDonald's just dropped a brand new Game Boy game in 2023. They released a Game Boy Color game that plays on actual hardware. 25 years after the release of the Game Boy Color, McDonald's is still attempting to deliver a worthwhile Mickey D's video game. They just released an official... McDonald's just released an official Tetris handheld in China. It seems that they're showing up the retro scene some love. Let's see, this game coincides with Grimace's fictional birthday of June 12th, and McDonald's has also released a limited edition meal as part of this celebration. Have you been to McDonald's lately? Have you seen the Grimace meal with the purple milkshake?
I have actually. Yeah, we had McDonald's for lunch a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was like, I don't think I've heard anything from Grimace since like 1995.
I thought they didn't use the McDonald Land people anymore.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Because you had Grimace, you had the Hamburglar, you had the
Fry
the
Guys.
Bird Girl,
Yeah,
the Fry Guys, and of course the Mr. McDonald himself.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a nice surprise. I didn't know they were doing a game, but I saw the meal, with the purple milkshake and whatnot. And there's, when you get your food, there's in this purple and yellow writing, it's like Grimace's birthday or something like that. I'm like, wow, they're really going back to that well. But this is kind of cool. McDonald's was one of my favorite places to go as a kid just because of the toys you get. I still have my Sonic the Hedgehog 3 toys, still in pretty good condition.
That's cool. This Game Boy Color title, Grimace's Birthday, was produced by Cruel Toys. Was developed using GB Studio, a program that makes Game Boy development much easier in 2023. Let's see. It was developed for somebody in a small niche community, Gumpy Function. Tom Lockwood, a.k.a. Gumpy Function, is the developer behind one of the absolute best homebrew Game Boy games unearthed. And they show some pictures here of the actual game, and it looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it says here the impressions are actually pretty decent.
Yeah, they said if it was released 20 years ago, it would have been a pretty solid title for the Game Boy.
It'll give me an excuse to get a Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Because I have been wanting one.
Yeah.
I do like earlier that it references the old McDonald Land game that came out in 92 for the Game Boy. And I was thinking I should have thought of that game when we were doing the food product reviews.
I forgot all about that game.
I did too until just now.
And they do have a picture.
Maybe I'll pick this up.
They do have a picture down here. Have you seen the little it's a little handheld game that looks like a chicken
like
McNugget?
A McNugget?
Yeah.
Yes.
When are we going to get that here?
I know, like that. I'd want that in a heartbeat.
I know. Japan gets all the cool stuff.
Of course they do. Maybe I'll have to get McDonald's for dinner.
I know, that sounds kind of good.
I kind of want some classic cheeseburgers and some chicken McNuggets.
Yeah. But if you want the Grimace's birthday meal, it's a Big Mac, fries, the purple shake, and the chicken McNuggets.
Don't tempt me.
I don't think that purple milkshake's going to be good for you, though.
No,
I mean, not that any of it's going to be good for you, but a purple milkshake that's gonna come out the same color it went in.
I don't want to test that theory.
Look in the toilet and be like, "Oh, look, Grimace!"
you hear me all the way in Mississippi.
So that's why they call it the Grimace meal.
Oh man, our next story comes to us from NintendoEverything.com. Proto Corgi finally launches following indefinite delay. Something we felt was worth highlighting is that Proto Corgi has finally launched across various platforms, including Switch. It was announced in June 2020 and was planned that November before moving to August 2021. However, during that initially planned release month, the game was delayed indefinitely. Only a few extra weeks of polish were planned, but something happened along the way as we're now getting it nearly 2 years later. You play as Bullet, a C3 class, which stands for Cute Cybernetic Corgi pup on his quest to save his owner, a brilliant scientist kidnapped by an alien race that wants to rule the galaxy. Proto Corgi is a retro pixel art shoot 'em up with a strong arcade feel. I have to play this game.
It looks pretty
One,
fun.
I have a soft spot for corgis. Secondly, like who doesn't want to play as a cybernetic corgi and save the world?
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Yeah, I mean they'll make games about dolphins that save the world that we'll talk about a little bit later. So why not a corgi?
I like the adjustable difficulty on the game goes from pup to ultra nightmare.
Yes,
This ain't bad. I mean, it's on the you can get it on the Switch shop right now for $6.99. That's not bad at all.
yeah, and I watched the trailer and it looks pretty fun. So for $7, I think it's worth giving it a shot.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Next, from NintendoLife.com, Capcom's 40th anniversary site is an incredible digital museum with playable retro games. Capcom has launched a beautiful 40th anniversary website which celebrates the company's history, as well as shares artwork and design docs and acts as a hub for some of the developers' biggest titles. Capcom Town is bursting with color, characters, and chiptune music, which will get anyone who's ever played, seen, or heard any of Capcom titles just a little bit giddy. Let's see, you got Street Fighter Dojo up in the corner. Monster Hunter occupies the space in front of the giant arcade machine. You can pop into the CMD Museum to look at artwork from some of Capcom's best titles. And there's some never-before-seen concept art for a high-resolution artwork of characters. Let's see, from Mega Man, Ace Attorney, Street Fighter 2. It also says there are a handful of playable retro games, including Mega Man, Mega Man 2, Mega Man X, Street Fighter 2, and Final Fight, and you can play them in English or Japanese. And you can also read through the game's instruction manuals and have a look at the cartridges for those titles. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah, this sounds great. If you're a Capcom fan, I think this is a must get.
Yeah, and how could you not be a Capcom fan? I mean, they're one of the greatest video game companies of all time. So, I mean, they've got 40 years of some of the greatest video games of all time. And just go, I think, what is it? Capcom. Let's see. Let me go to the actual website. It's Capcom. It's captown.capcom.com. We'll take you there.
Yeah, this is really, really cool. And I haven't checked it out yet myself, but I definitely plan to. And it's a retro gamer's dream, in my opinion, is something like this.
This is awesome. Yeah, you look over in the corner, you see Hager down in the corner. There's Honda. It's like one of those Where's Waldo pictures with like everything that ever Capcom has ever put out is in this picture, and you're like, oh, look over here. Oh, look over here.
This will make for really good like computer background.
I know. This is awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool.
I love Capcom so much. They make so many good games.
That's another top 5 we could do. Top 5 game developers.
Yep, we could do that.
Yep, and Capcom would be on my list.
We could just do top 5 Capcom games.
Yeah, we could. Our last story comes to us from GameRant.com. Nintendo leaker teases big GameCube games for the Switch. Let's see. Frequent Nintendo leaker Zippo has suggested that the Nintendo Switch could be home to some major GameCube games in the near future. While the other gaming companies recently hosted big events as part of Summer Game Fest, Nintendo decided to remain on the sidelines. However, rumors are heating up that a Nintendo Direct presentation could be happening at some point soon, which, as we mentioned, is tomorrow, the day that we're recording this, as the upcoming slate of Nintendo Switch exclusives is looking rather bare. Still riding high on the success of Tears of the Kingdom, but it doesn't have much confirmed for the rest of the year. Pikmin 4 is launching in July, but fall and holiday 2023 are looking barren for Nintendo. According to the leaker, 2 of the classic GameCube titles are in the form of F-Zero GX and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. He believes that both will be released by the end of the year, which I think are both good choices. You know, F-Zero GX, I remember that game blowing my mind when I played it for the first time because it's really fast for a game from that era. And Paper Mario, like all the Paper Mario games are great, but Thousand Year Door is probably my favorite. It has a great story. It
See,
has a lot
I
of
never got to play that. So I would love to play that game.
yeah, that's one that we need to do a dual review on at some point. And next year is the 20-year anniversary of the game because I believe it came out in
Yeah.
2004.
Well, it would just make sense for Nintendo to finally give the GameCube some love. I know that they think it was a black eye on, their
It's
history.
not.
It's not. It was not appreciated at the time, but that console was so good. It was so good, and there were so many good titles for it. They need to just put the GameCube on the Nintendo Switch Online. They just need to.
Yeah, and I think these are two great ones to start out with. I think if you're going to pick five, I think you got to put these two. You got to have Wind Waker.
Yes.
I'd put Mario Sunshine
Hmm.
on there. And then, I mean, Luigi's Mansion would be a good one, but I don't know if you'd put two Mario titles up at once.
You know what they need to put on there? Not all the Star Wars games, the Rogue Squadron
Yep.
games.
Yep.
They need to put the Lego games on there. They had a
Hmm.
lot of Lego games on there. And I think they had like a lot of the Lucasfilm. Pretty much just put all the Lucasfilm games on there.
One that I would love, especially maybe release it in October, is that Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem game
Yes.
that I reviewed, because it is one of the coolest games, not just horror games, but coolest games I've ever played. I think that it would capture a whole new audience.
Yeah. But yeah, if they were to put 1,000 Year Door on there, that would be amazing. Because like I said, I never got to play it, and I've always heard nothing but good stuff about that game, and I've never played it. So if it did drop on the Switch, that would probably be the next thing I'll play after I finish Tears of the Kingdom, because I have a feeling I'm going to be in Tears of the Kingdom for a while.
Yeah, same. It's that game has been so good that like I pretty much played my review tonight just enough to I wasn't able to beat it, but I enough to have a good opinion on it. But Tears of the Kingdom is just so tough to get away from.
Yeah. Well, that's why I suggested that next week we do, we're going to do a top 5 list for next week. So I'll go ahead and tell everybody next week's top 5. I wanted to do a top 5 list because I wanted another week to play Tears of the Kingdom and not have to worry about anything else. So we're going to do a top 5, but we're going to do top 5, failed gaming mascots. So, what are your favorite gaming mascots that failed back in the day? So that's going to be a fun list to do, and
We've already gotten several suggestions,
yeah,
or several lists, so that's cool.
We got a couple of lists in the Discord right now. So just send us your lists either on the Discord or Twitter, or you can send them on our Facebook page, or you can email them to us nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. And that's going to be the top 5 list next week.
It's going to be a fun one.
But now I think it's time for us to move into this month in video game history. In June of 1981, Ultima is released, beginning a successful computer role-playing game series, which is still going on to this day.
Yep, there is. Let me see how many there are. Of course, there's not a number, but there's at least 9.
Yeah.
Actually, much more than that, because there's 2 canceled games. There are 3 spin-offs,
Well, I
an
know
online game.
People are still playing the online game.
Yeah, it's insane to me that like if this were like World of Warcraft, it wouldn't surprise me. But a game series that's not like as known as World of Warcraft and is still going is still just mind-blowing to me.
I know there was an Ultima game for the NES, and I think I tried it out a few times, and I don't think it's that great. But I mean, I will go give it a look-see and see if it's worth doing a playthrough and doing a review of.
I mean, with a series that's been going on this long, I think it at least has to command attention.
Yeah.
June 19th of 1983, Cinematronics releases Advanced Microcomputer Systems Dragon's Lair, the third Laserdisc video game and the first in the American market. One of, and arguably the most known Laserdisc game, in my opinion. Like, Dragon's Lair is, the animation is beautiful. Mm-hmm. I've never played it, but it's one of the most iconic games of the 80s.
Well, they've been trying to bring back Dragon's Lair. They've been trying to actually make a movie, I think, over the past few years. I mean, I think they did a Kickstarter and a couple other things. I don't think it funded, but Don Bluth Studios, like, some really cool animation, just the way he the way he drew things. Like, it's immediately recognizable, the Don Bluth animation. I mean, he did a lot of Disney stuff, and then he left and did his own studio and movies and stuff. So I would love to see a Dragon's Lair movie. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Wasn't Ryan Reynolds in the running to play the main character?
Dirk the Daring. He would be absolutely perfect in that role.
Yep. Maybe it'll happen one day.
Maybe.
I mean, you look at, Michael Keaton coming back as Batman 30 years later. No one ever thought that would happen.
I know.
So, who knows?
June of 1984, Ultimate Play the Game releases Saberwolf on the ZX Spectrum, or the ZX Spectrum, depending on where you are in the world.
And Ultimate Play the Game eventually became Rare.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep. So Saberwolf, I learned of the Saberwolf character from Banjo-Tooie, because he was one of the last levels you play in that game is called Hailfire Peaks, where it's two mountains. One is a volcano and the other is like a snowtop mountain. And Saberwolf is frozen in ice, and you have to thaw him out and take him back to his tent, where he kind of gives you a little bit of dialogue from like this particular game, which is a really cool little throwback to like old school Rare fans.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've never played this game. There was one, I think it came out for the Game Boy. It was either the Game Boy Color or the Game Boy Advance, starring Saberwolf, but I never played it.
This also, not only was it on the ZX Spectrum, it was on the BBC Micro, the Commodore 64, and the Amstrad CPC. I don't remember this on the Commodore 64.
Oh, it says here Game Boy Advance. Yeah, it came out in 2004.
See, I don't remember this at all.
Oh, it was developed by Rare and published by THQ.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Early Rare
and then,
title.
Yeah, early Rare. June 23rd of 1991. You knew I had to throw this in there. Yeah. Sega releases Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis, which, of course, became the pack-in game, became Sega's mascot, and to me, the second most known video game character of all time, only behind Mario.
Mm-hmm. And number one on my failed mascot list. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Wow.
If you didn't do it, I'm sure somebody was going to put Sonic on.
I think
Rampage will probably do that.
I think a case could be made that he is far from a failed mascot.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that series is over 30 years old.
We're getting old.
Makes me feel old. Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah, this is just depressing me. So
let's move on.
Patreon shout-outs.
Yeah, well, now it's time for our Patreon shout-outs. And Derek, would you like to do the honors?
Absolutely. As always, we want to shout out our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. We want to shout out Travis Martin, Raven, Danny House, Justin Nispel, John West, Daniel Salmon, Mr. B-Res Coffee himself, Mike Eveland, Tyler Watson, Axblade07, Armez Jackson, Carlos Longoria, a.k.a. Rampage, Steph Sargent Sketch, Gus and Penny, Matthew Salmon, Joey Image, and Mama Diamond herself, Donna Diamond. Thank you all so much. Which both my parents, funny enough, as a little personal note, they retired after working at my grandparents' business for 50 years.
Wow. 50 years?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was in business for 50 years, and
Wow.
they retired a couple of weeks ago.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, 50 years almost to the day of when my grandpa opened it,
That's a
which is,
long freaking time, man.
yeah, it is a very, very long time. But yeah, for if you want to be a part of our awesome Patreon community, just head over to patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. And this month, schedule permitting,
Hmm.
we're going to be doing a commentary track for Batman 89,
Hmm.
which is going to be a lot of fun. Um, I'll say briefly, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show. I did see The Flash, and I will say that everything with Michael Keaton, 10 out of 10.
Hmm.
Absolutely loved it. So I'm really excited to go back and watch Batman 89.
But I do want to say, like Derek said, schedule permitting, our schedules aren't lining up very good this month. So if we don't get to Batman '89, we will keep it for next month, and we'll put out something nice and quick before
Yeah.
the month ends.
Yeah, we'll figure something out hopefully in the next day or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to be a part of our awesome Patreon community, you get early access to those fun commentary tracks, and you also get to vote on what we review when Jason and I post a poll,
Hmm.
much like what I'm going to be talking about momentarily. And if you want to be a part of that community, just head over to patreon.com/nerdcaveretro. And for new patrons, be sure to send us your social media info, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, so we can give you a proper shout out.
And tonight, Derek is going to be talking about. Not quite the music I was expecting for this game.
Me either. I didn't really know what to expect when I started this game. But of course, that music is from Ecco the Dolphin, which is an action adventure game originally developed by Ed Annunziata and Novatrade International for the Mega Drive/Genesis and published by Sega in 1992. And I can honestly say that I believe it's one of the most re-released games out there because it's a part of pretty much every Sega collection that has been re-released since the 90s. It's been on Nintendo's Virtual Console for the Wii, Xbox Live Arcade, Steam, the 3DS, Nintendo Switch Online, and it's on the Genesis Mini, the first one, which is where I played it for the most part. I dabbled into it a little bit on the Switch, but the Genesis has such a unique controller that I felt like that was going to be the best experience is playing it with a Genesis controller.
Yeah.
So I remember this game from way back in the day because Sega was really known for only a handful of things, mostly Sonic the Hedgehog. But I do remember Vector Man being advertised, and I remember Ecco the Dolphin. And even back then, I was like, why would I want to play as a dolphin? Like that, it didn't appeal to me enough to pull the trigger to get it. And I remember seeing it, as I mentioned, throughout the years on all the Sega re-releases, all the classic collections and things like that. Still never had the desire to play it. Like I was curious, don't get me wrong, but not curious enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So started, obviously doing this show. And then years later, I'm like, you know what? I'm finally going to do it. I'm finally going to play Ecco the Dolphin. And it was not what I was expecting. And the short of it is that it's not a bad game, but I don't think it's a great game either. And I'll tell you why. Some of the positives from it, visually, it is a very good looking game. So I put in the notes that it has a lot of cool colors. And I don't mean cool in the sense of like it's great or something like that. I mean cool as in like the color temperature, like your blues, your greens. It's a very visually pleasing game. It's very easy on the eyes. And I was like, okay, it looks good. It doesn't sound like I expect, but it's not a bad thing. but we're just going to see what happens. The game does not tell you anything about what to do. And I mean that in the most literal sense that I can say. There's no cutscene. There's nothing. Like, you literally are just floating in the water. And you're in this little area where you can practice your abilities, which was cool. I'm like, okay, I can swim around and kind of get a feel for what you're supposed to do. Because Echo does have a couple of attacks that you can do. You can either ram your enemies at high speeds, or you can use this like, sonar radar that dolphins have in real life. And you use that to also communicate with other animals. You can communicate with other dolphins. I think you can communicate with clams as a way to replenish your health. And something that you have to remember too, and this is where the game can get kind of tough, is that dolphins are mammals, so they do have to come up for air. And you do have an air meter. And you have to keep your eye on that. And that can get kind of frustrating.
That sentence alone makes me go, ugh, I don't want to play this. That just sounds terrible. I hate it when there's like a timer element or some kind of element like that you constantly have to keep your eye on. That drives me insane in video games.
And it does me for the most part. There are certain exceptions, like this may not be a good example, but it's the only one I can think of. When you play the first Pikmin game, you have a limited amount of time where you're on the surface of the planet because you can't be on it at night because all the predators are out. Mm-hmm. But you also have a 30-day time limit, which I like because it creates a sense of urgency. But it's different in that sense than it is with Ecco the Dolphin. It's basically, this is a platformer underwater, is the best way I can describe it, with some puzzle elements. I know it defeats the purpose, I know, because you can jump out of the water, because sometimes you have to jump to get from one area of water to the other. You have to build up enough speed where you just shoot out of the water like a rocket and then land into the next area to progress.
You know what, this game, and even back then, when the game first came out, and this game was marketed heavily.
Oh yeah, I remember
when it came out. I don't know if you remember or not, but this game was everywhere. It was you could not open a comic book without an Ecco advertisement in your face. It was in all the magazines. There were commercials on TV. You could not escape Ecco the Dolphin back in the day. And the only thing looking at what little gameplay I've seen of this game, it just makes me think this is an entire game of the damn section on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Am I close?
You're not that far off. And the controls are easy enough to pick up. I mentioned the attacks, and they're easy to learn. Like that area in the beginning of the game that you're literally just thrown into, it gives you an idea of what to do. But the problem is that you're in this, it's almost like a pool of like other dolphins are in it. Like it's a body of water in the ocean, but it's blocked off by, underwater caverns and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I found out what to do just by pure accident. Because so this is the story, and I'm not lying when I say this. You travel through time to fight aliens. That's the story, is that so this is what happens. So you have to jump up in the air at a certain point on the map, and you and all the other dolphins and sea life get sucked into this vortex. And then you're thrown into another body of water, and then you have to talk with the other dolphins to find out what the heck is going on. And yeah, you were transported back in time by aliens, and you have to fight them to save the Earth. It's a crazy story, and it's one that, to me, is enough that's intriguing. And the game is tough. I'm not going to lie. Like the picking it up and what to do and how to do it is easy enough. But underwater games have never really been my forte.
Hmm.
And the fact that you have to keep your eye on the air meter, because if you run out of air, your health just it depletes pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea in theory, but in practicality, it's not great.
Well, here's a quote by the game's creator, and Annunziata, or however you say his name. The quote is, "I was paranoid about game rentals and kids beating the game over the weekend, so ... I made it hard."
I respect the honesty.
Yeah.
I'll at least say that.
He said he worked with the music team on the soundtrack, playing them songs by Pink Floyd to illustrate the feeling he was aiming for. So I think that nails a lot of why this game is so weird. This dude was on drugs.
I was about to say, what else was he doing in addition to listening to Pink Floyd? Probably what a lot of people were doing while listening to Pink Floyd.
Hey, man, I got an idea for a cool video game, man.
What if you got to save the world? You're a dolphin. And you travel back in time.
And you fight aliens, man.
I feel like we're delving into Matthew McConaughey territory.
You know what would be cool, man?
I think this game would be all right. But going back to the game itself, fighting the enemies, to me, it wasn't as difficult as that statement says. It's just everything about the game is very average to me. Besides the visuals, like the story is crazy, but in kind of a cool way. But it's not one of those games that I'm going to go back and play again. And I put this in the notes. If you're curious about it, give it a shot and you can form your own opinion. If you've played the game before and you're curious about, well, should I go back and play that again? I'd say you're probably good. Like there's a lot of games from that era that are better. It's not terrible.
I would like to actually, if we could find somebody that worked on this game, I would actually like to do a deep dive on the making of this game.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I didn't even mean to do that. Pun intended. Do a deep dive on Ecco the Dolphin and find out why this game was pushed so hard by Sega and why it's been re-released so many times over the years. I mean, were they trying to make Ecco a mascot like Sonic, or?
But they already had Sonic.
I know. Like, why was Ecco, like, why was there like $1 million marketing push on this thing at the time?
That would be my two questions would be, one, how much money was put into marketing, because it had to be a lot. Because like you said, I remember the magazine ads in video game magazines. I remember seeing them in comic books. I'm pretty sure they're in some of the Sonic comics that I still have to this day, which is smart marketing. Don't get me wrong. But was it worth the return on investment?
Yeah. Like, and how well did this thing sell? Let's see.
I didn't see it in the article.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything as far as because back then they really didn't have any metrics or how many like they could get close. They don't know exactly how many units were sold of games around this time, but it couldn't have been that many.
Well, and it says here that a reviewer for Next Generation called the PC release a little more than a conversion from the yesteryears of the 16-bit Sega Genesis, except for a few video cutscenes. There was little attempt to make it look or play better for the PC. and then it was placed at number 24 in the top Mega Drive games of all time by Mega. And Complex rated Ecco number 44 in their best 100 Sega Genesis games. They called it the most soothing puzzle action game available on the Genesis. It does make me question what other games like that are available on the Genesis. And I'm not saying that to sound sarcastic, but it does make me curious. And I don't want to completely bury the game because it has good qualities. Like I mentioned, I like it visually. I like the idea of it. I like the puzzle aspect of it, and that it makes it stand out than like a traditional platformer, which is weird calling this a platformer because you're swimming.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just, I tried really hard to like this game, but it just could never draw me in.
Yeah.
And I've played through it, well, not completely, but I've made attempts to play it several times, and I got like maybe 30 minutes in at most for each session, and it just never really held my attention.
Yeah, because I remember distinctly back then, the marketing push for this game and the TV commercials and all that stuff, and seeing gameplay of this game, and still to this day, even you talking about it, there's nothing about this game that makes me want to try it out to play it. Like, there's nothing there for me. This is totally was not meant for me.
So you're not buying what I'm selling?
Not buying what you're selling, sir. I just don't understand why this was pushed so hard. That's the interesting part to me, because it's just, you look at the cover, it's just a dolphin. It's an airbrush picture of a dolphin, and it says Ecco the Dolphin, and they pushed this like hard.
Maybe they were trying to get another notable character besides Sonic, because like by then Nintendo had Mario, they had Zelda. This was 92, so this was like early in the lifespan of the Super Nintendo.
Chuck in the chat room said Game Rant had an article 2 days ago calling it one of the 8 hardest Genesis games.
I believe it. I totally believe it. And there are some areas that are unnecessarily hard, and not in the sense that you want to keep trying.
Frustrating.
I ask myself, why do I want to keep trying?
Yeah.
and then I don't. And I'd eventually go back to it, but like I said, it just never held my attention to make me want to continue to play it. And some of the reviews, Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it a 31 out of 40. GameSpot gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Mega Fun gave it a 72 out of 100. Electronic Entertainment gave it a 9 out of 10. Megatech 94, and Sega Magazine gave it a 92%.
It must have done well, because it got sequels, it got a Sega CD version. And like you said, it's been re-released 100 times in the last 30 years.
I don't know how much drier that well can be. That they keep, because they keep going back to it. I'm sure they're like scraping dirt out of that well now. I don't know. And I would love to chat with somebody that actually really likes this game. Like, I'd love to hear their take on it.
Yeah.
But it couldn't hold my attention. And there are things that I like about it, and I think this could have been a more enjoyable game if not for the difficulty and the constant thought in the back of your mind, okay, well, now I've got to go up for air, which is I got to drop everything that I'm doing and figure out a way so that I don't die. And I think that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Realistic, yes, but also unnecessary. It's a video game.
Yeah, that's the whole point of a video game, is it's supposed to be unreal.
Yeah. So I don't want to be completely harsh on it. I'll give it a 5. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Like, I think the visuals are really good. The music is fun at times. I like the environment, but that's about it.
Yeah. Yep, I'll probably never try this game out. There's just nothing. There's not enough there to make me want to try it.
Yeah, I would say my recommendation for you would be pass.
Yeah.
Continue to play Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
I already know what I'm going to review next, and it's going to be a few weeks from now. But it's been a while since I've reviewed a really bad game. Like, Echo's not great, but I wouldn't call it atrociously bad.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and say it. My next review is going to be Tails Adventure for the Game Gear. One of the worst games I've ever played in my entire life.
Awesome.
And so people like it when we review the bad games.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
I'm not sure what I'm going to be reviewing next, but I might put up a poll on the Patreon this week.
Poll's always good.
I know that I do want to. We talked about it a few weeks ago. I'm kind of interested to try that game Rocket Knight. That
yeah.
Mark Simmons was talking about a couple of weeks ago in the chat room. That looks really cool. I want to try that out. Maybe we could do a dual review of it at some point this summer.
Yeah, no, I'm always down for a dual review.
But I think that's going to bring us to the end of this day late episode. But we got one. We got it for you.
Yeah, and again, I apologize to everyone for the internet issues. Sometimes technology just does not want to cooperate. But
yeah, they understand.
Got a new router, and it works great. So there shouldn't be any problem with that going forward.
Awesome. Well, tell everybody what got released on the Derek Diamond Experience this week.
Yeah, so continuing, our look back at feature presentation episodes, and we did a really fun top 5 list with the two of us plus Wally and Joey Image, top 5 movie sequels. And it was a pretty epic top 5 list. It's almost 2 hours long.
I went back and listened to it because I had no memory of doing the show. It was like listening to a whole new conversation.
And that's the cool thing about re-releasing the old shows, is that I think they're old enough now to where they can almost be a new experience.
It is. It was 2 hours of I don't remember anything I said. So it wasn't like I was listening to me. It was like I was listening to somebody else.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping for. But yeah, you can find that on the Derek Diamond Experience audio feed. You can head over to linktree.com/DDiamondPodcast, where you can find where to subscribe to the show, YouTube channel, social media. All of it is in one location.
Go listen to the Open Micers podcast this week at Open Micers on Twitter and Instagram. We did our Ask Us Anything special for this week. We asked the listeners to send us questions. And, do you want to know if we think we would win if we fought a bear together? Or does Jacob smell like sour garbage? If these are the questions you want to know the answers to, go listen to the latest Open Micers podcast for this week.
I'm going to listen to it at work tomorrow. I'm really excited. I'm kind of kicking myself because one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, I was going to make a note for you to save it for last. How did you guys feel about your first Ask Me Anything episode?
Oh, you can save that for the first question on the next one.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, that was a fun episode. It's going to be out this week, so go listen to that and go listen to us talk about our top 5 movie sequels over on the Derek Diamond Experience. And I think that's going to do it for this week. Is that everything?
I think so.
Awesome. Let's walk out the door. If you want to email us at nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. We're at nerdcaveretro.com. That takes you to our link tree that goes to our Facebook, our Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, and our merch shop, which you can also get to by going to ncrmerch.com. You can go over there. You can get a hat, you can get a t-shirt, stickers, magnets, bags, mugs, whatever your nerdy little heart desires. Follow us on social media at NerdCaveRetro, at JFunktastic, and at Derek_Diamond. And of course, please leave us a review and or a 5-star rating on all podcasting platforms. So Derek, please tell them what it's all about.
May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Of course.
freeze. Learn it well, for it's the chilling sound of your doom.
Yes.
I knew you would like that one.
I love it.
I was trying
That's
to think,
awesome.
like, what's the best Arnold quote of all time? And I'm like, let me get one of the worst.
That's definitely in the top 5, and it ain't 5.
Yeah. That whole movie is nothing but Arnold one-liners that are just terrible, but awesome at the same time.
Yeah, it's as a movie, it's totally atrocious, but the one-liners make it worth something.
I'm thinking, I know we're going to do Batman 89 this month, but I think maybe at some point we need to do a commentary track for Batman and Robin.
Yes.
That's just that movie's so bad.
And not like the Power Glove.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be one that I might have to have a little liquid assistance.
Me too. I might go get me a little bottle of scotch or something to sip on. But thank you guys for hanging out with us in the chat room, and we will see you guys next week.